What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm BDLM, coming with my buddy J4Y, bringing you episode number 71 of our Dota on Demand podcast. What's going on, man?
Number 71. Getting up there in the episodes. Merry Festivus, Christmas. Let's just say Festivus to keep it Dota related. Merry Festivus to you all.
Frostivus? You're keeping
Festivus,
it
Frostivus, Maximus. I'm thinking about the Super Bowl.
Relevant.
I'm trying to get there.
Oh.
But, okay, Merry Frostivus to all. Or I guess I should keep calling it Wraith-Night, but either way, the event. I'm doing well. Had a fantastic holiday with loved ones and friends and many a folk. How are you doing? How was your Frostivus?
It was really good. I enjoyed it quite a lot. Tonight is Thursday. It's actually not Tuesday. Tuesday
Correct.
was Christmas Eve for some of us, and so as you were just implying, we were off spending time with people and stuff. But you know what? You can't take that long of a break from Dota, and so here we are, back with, as we've kind of hinted before, an episode that's going to largely be about Slark and Huskar, but we're also going to touch on some games we've played. There's also a little bit more Bristol shenanigans, because that guy just isn't going anywhere. So it should be good. It should be a lot of fun, a good episode. First of all, if we're going to lead off with the Frostivus, there were some new heroes added to that game mode. Some of them I'm quite fond of. You want to read them off, my friend?
Sure. Yeah, 5 new heroes, and it didn't take long for them to get into. It was just a couple weeks. That's pretty awesome. They got the Queen of Pain, Templar Assassin, the Witch Doctor, the Elder Titan, and the Storm Spirit. So, I guess I'll ask you first. Who's your favorite so far of the 5?
TA has to probably be my favorite. That hero is just a nice, quick little addition. They really only had to change refraction to not to make it a flat amount of damage instead of instances. But she's, I think, like, I liked Drow. I thought Drow was kind of fun, but you have to spend like a little bit too much time kiting, and it's a little painful to do sometimes. But TA was a lot of fun. I actually really enjoyed having her. What was your favorite edition?
I have to say, well, I guess the best I've done, and which makes it kind of the most fun, is also Templar Assassin. I really feel like she was made for the game mode. Like, the side blades are just too darn strong. I mean, if you can, and it's kind of cool also how you have to, like, put yourself in the right position so you angle it so you get the most out of your cleave. I really like that about her, and I like the refraction as well, giving that just big percent damage instead of just bonus damage. It's a percent damage. It's really nice. It lasts a long time. She's really fun. I have tried all 5. Well, actually, that's not true. I haven't played Elder Titan yet. And I think the reason is because they didn't touch his kit at all. And, I mean, while he's just a strong hero in general, obviously, that's why he's picked in the pro scene all the time, it doesn't feel as exciting to me as these other heroes. Like, I really like the ones they did temper, because it feels that much cooler that there's this new ability, this new thing that helps you deal with these hordes of monsters. And with Titan, it's just, I mean, yeah, he's got a good amount of AoE, but he's more of that just useful utility on your team than like this guy that just blasts through groups of enemies.
Yeah, I really want to beat ++. I mean, you back.
Are we going to theory craft a perfect team for that?
I'm just saying, Jay. Not all that long ago, you and I were MC Raiders. We ain't got no life. And I did really enjoy beating those difficult PvE encounters, and I really want to beat ++. And I did actually get to play the Elder Titan. He was like really underwhelming for like you by yourself. But I think if you were to like theory craft a team together, like I think he has to be part of it. You should have to pair him up with somebody else that maybe needs a little bit help wave clearing early on, but then can handle their own later on. So I mean, we don't have to like put together the dream team. I mean, I would certainly love to do that, and anybody else that wants to do that out there, I know we had some attempts at it that went pretty all right. But I think it'd be a lot of fun to throw a team together, and I would probably want Elder Titan on there. I guess maybe, or Omni Knight. I guess you gotta go one way or the other.
You gotta get a Omni Knight, because that ultimate's just way too ridiculous. Axe you probably need, so someone that can tank the damage well for your team. And then you need some high damage.
Windrunner? Need the Windrunner.
Wind Ranger, excuse me. And that's okay, you're learning. And Wind Ranger, and probably like TA or Drow or someone else that can do some good damage. It's just the melee people, they're good, but in the harder ones, It's just a little overwhelming. You can't keep up. But I have to comment. I played the Co-op, the Witch Doctor, and the Storm Spirit, and the Co-op just felt underwhelming. Surprisingly, I mean, they did change her Shadow Strike. It's a line nuke that does the slow, and so it's a lot better, obviously, for this mode. But the Scream of Pain just wasn't keeping up in damage that you needed, and so you had to kind of build her like an auto-attacker almost, and it just didn't feel right. You can go that Oggs, and it makes that ultimate a really short cooldown, but just not the right thing. The Storm Spirit, I really felt so weak on that hero. I'm like, oh, this guy's going to be perfect. He's like master of AoE with his Q. It's a short cooldown. He'll be moving around the map, but he has to be in there close to them to do a lot of his damage, and he's obviously incredibly squishy. Bloodstone's not an ideal item as far as I'm concerned in this mode, so your normal build's not going to work, and maybe I played him the wrong way, but I felt really weak. And then Witch Doctor, the only really awesome thing about Witch Doctor is that his cask is like a 5 or 6 second cooldown, so you're just spamming that. But besides that, his other abilities are, I mean, his ultimate obviously is pretty strong, but I don't know.
The ultimate's hilarious, and the best part about that is you do the pub stomp Witch Doctor, where you go Shadow Blade as well.
Oh,
so you just drop the ultimate, then go invisible, and you just stand in the middle of everything, and it's just glorious, and everything
and then you
dies.
look at it go. And,
yeah, until you get to the later levels, then it's just like, this has been like 2 full casts because I did Ags and Refresher, and it's kind of... it's not killing.
I also got my Evergreen Stalkers. There was new rewards, and that was one of them. So I was able to get the recipe, and I did pay like $1, and I just bought frozen items off the market because I was so excited. I thought I would just get the item. It's the Nature Prophet trees, for those who don't know. It's a special skin for them, and I was like, oh, I just get them. I saved up all my shards. I got them, and it's like, nope. Now you need 3 frozen items, and I only had 1, and it was a rare one because I bought with my super shards. I don't know what the heck they're called, the ones you paid $1 for. And I got like a Phantom Assassin weapon, and I'm like, I'm not gonna turn that into treants. Like, are you kidding me? So I just went on the little marketplace, according to one of our friends, and literally it was like 60 cents a frozen item, and just plugged it away, got them crafted up, and I'm about to buy another one. Hopefully, get another sick item. But I really like the rewards, and you know, it's a fun mode, casual to do. Obviously, it's a nice way to break up the monotonous DoD. Sometimes that happens where you just get on a bad streak, which we'll maybe get into right after this about our personal games. That'll be a great transition, let me tell you. But either way, having a great time, like you're saying. I know we've been having some people. I think you got a game in with Ollie or someone. But yeah, keep adding us up. J4Y is mine. He's BEDLAM. You see our DoD On Demand picture. You can add us. We're here.
Yeah, absolutely. I did get to play Legion Commander a little bit this week, and it was pretty good. I may have once fed Slark some damage.
Oops.
But you know,
it
all came out in the wash. It worked out. You know, you take the good, you take the bad, and you know, some W's came out of it. And it was a lot of fun. You know, I mean, just kind of going back to what we were saying last time. You know, I did wind up getting the bottle on her, and I enjoyed it a lot. You know, I think I may have only gotten like 1 rune that really helped me like get into a fight and, you know, soak up some dual damage, or even just get in there and get an early kill. But it was totally worth it, and really did enjoy having the extra mana and the extra health. It was just a fantastic time. Have you gotten to play her yet in a?
I've played her once, and I played her in the jungle, and I know and maybe that's just a pub thing to do because she's one of those heroes, kind of like Doom or like Nature Prophet, where you can just get lost in the jungle and just farm yourself some beautiful items. And if you can just get yourself maybe 1 or 2 early fights and it's successful on your side, in addition to all the farm you've been getting for free, you don't even need the Handamitis or anything. You just become this strong, powerful force. I mean, I had kind of one of those snowbally games go well for me. I remember playing with B Dunn, who had one same exact situation. He got like a Shadow Blade and I believe an Assault Carius in like 23 minutes, and I was like, this is absurd. Like, this game's already over, and he won like 2 duels by then. And I'm like, this game is over. Like, he's just going to take over the game. The other team can't keep up with his farm and his damage now. And sure enough, he just got out of control. And, you know, the Shadow Blade was kind of an interesting take because it's obviously works like the Blink Dagger we discussed about either way you need to get in there to get that duel down. I like it maybe a little bit more than the Blink because obviously it provides the damage as well. and the little bit extra on top. But both provide obviously a great bonus themselves. But yeah, I think she's a lot of fun, especially in the pub scene, and when she transitions over to the pro scene, who knows what's going to happen at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I played her mostly in the jungle too, which I really enjoyed. But I think you can totally do that, and you can sort of just get lost in the jungle, like you were saying. But I definitely try to make it a point, especially when I'm a jungle hero, to make sure that I'm coming out and trying to put on some additional pressure. And I was able to find a couple opportunities to sort of capitalize on it, but there were some times where it's like, I'm not able to get anything. Okay, I'll keep stacking the easy camp and clearing that out. But the thing that I really did like is, sometimes we'll say stuff and it's like, yeah, if you like super tweak things, or if you're like playing super hardcore, you can do these little things that are really nice. Press the attack, and using that on friendlies who are in trouble to dispel stuns, dispel slow effects, really helped. And actually, being able to sweep around behind the enemy once your friends have engaged in, one of the off lanes, and then being able to save somebody from dying, and then just having them be able to turn around and maybe throw an additional spell, some additional attacks, really made a big difference. And, I think that's an important thing, if you are trying to like take this Legion Commander out for a spin yourself, that you remember that press the attack isn't just this thing that you use to help you get kills during the duels. It really is a spell that's a good heal over time and a great dispel, which is hard to come by.
Yeah, the dispel, honestly, I think is definitely not really viewed as much as it's not appreciated as much, I guess I should say. I don't know how to word it, but yeah, most people think of it, like you said, as just the attack speed to get in there and dish out damage, but really it is an all-around a great utility spell that she provides. Yeah, I got to play, I know you're going to give me crap, but I did play Tusk. I did play Tusk. Now, yes, yeah, okay, shake your head, go ahead, get it off your chest, let's hear it.
It took 2 weeks, Jay. 2 weeks. To not do your challenge, to break it, but well,
here we go.
For some men, the word is their bond. For others, it's
all right. Well, here we go. Here's the not excuse. Here's the legitimate reasoning behind my idea of not playing all the games as Tusk. Ranked came out, of course, as you know, and our friends love to play group ranked, and I had not even begun my my 10 games to get my rating. And so I really wanted to just try my bestest and get this super big number so my ego would not be deflated and I could feel like a real person after the end of those 10 games. So sure enough, I believe I've played 2 of those games were Tusk games, and despite doing well, we lost. And then I played 6 other games, and I decided to just play heroes I thought I would do really well at, or a role that I'd like a support where we really need a support, and I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And we lost all those, so I was 0-8 in my preliminary matches here. Good start. And then I was playing with you back, and you're of course making fun of me for not playing Tusk. So I'm like, you know what? For you, Matt, I'm just gonna pick Tusk, and whatever happens, happens this game. And we dominate. I mean, yeah, I know. It's just the way the world works. Is, you finally have a great game when you do the right thing. I guess karma rewards you in a way. But so now I'm 3-2 as the Tusk. I started out with 2 slaughtering performances. Then, actually, all 5 games I've done really well as a hero. I have to admit, I'm proud of myself. I've done really well. My record has been always positive, if not dominating. And I've gotten some good items, good farm. But haven't always won, but I'm above 50, so I mean that's a good start.
I'm just gonna lay down some life lessons, if that's okay. That's the beauty of the challenge, Shay. Sometimes you have to figure out how these heroes work in these situations where you might think, oh, they're not good enough, they're not strong enough, I can't make them work. But then you have to do it, and you do it, and you make it beautiful, and you realize you learned so much. And that's okay. I hope you learned your lesson, and I hope for to keep your word to the children out there who look up to you as a role model for their lives, that you would just hop back on the Tusk bandwagon, finish out strong. I believe in you. Heart of the cards.
I'm so glad I didn't agree to 100. That would have been miserable. I would have melted. Oh.
Yeah. Say no to drugs.
Oh, yeah.
Fight the good fight. John 3:16. That's all I got. But it's not that many. You can do it. So
5th of the way there.
Tighten the cinch, Jay. and just suck it up.
Okay.
Anyway,
I can do it.
yeah, they were fun games though. I honestly really enjoy the Tusk games. I think they're a lot of fun. But hopefully in the next couple weeks we'll be able to finish that up, and then we can have a full Tusk report. It'll be beautiful. But we should get down to these two new heroes. I mean, we say new heroes, new to Captain's mode
Right.
after their changes. We've obviously gotten to play with them. We've gotten to think that they're the worst thing ever, that they're OP, that some of them shouldn't be able to shoot spears from E-Blade. But now we have Slark and we have Huskar back here, and so we actually decided this week to go ahead and look over 5 games, and we're just sort of going to touch on these games fairly briefly, pointing out sort of just the neat stuff that happens in them in relation to Slark and Huskar, and really what elements of these games it is that makes them successful or ultimately makes them fail. So we sort of get this idea of okay, well, how does this new Captain's Mode hero really work in a competitive game? And if we want to look real quick at the stats, Slark has enjoyed himself 37 picks in Captain's Mode, 20 wins, 17 losses, so 54% win rate. Respectable.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Huskar, again, is about the same. It's almost the same numbers. He has a 33% win rate. 1 and 2. But, and maybe we'll get into this later when we actually get to the exact game, I was watching Zyori and Merlini cast a game with Huskar, picked by OSG, I believe. And Merlini says, everybody talks about the Slark, but I actually think Huskar is the more unbalanced hero, or is the stronger choice. And there's a point in that game where you really just start to see Huskar in a place where he's just really strong. But I mean, what are your thoughts about these two heroes? I mean, obviously, we've had some experience with them. We talked about them a little bit last week. Which of these are you more excited about? Which one do you see the most potential in?
Well, I'm definitely more excited for Slark, just because I like the hero more than Huskar. I think our viewers know by now I have a little vendetta against Huskar. I really do. But yet the potential, I see Huskar having the most potential. To be honest, it's the way his kit is built. The burning spears gives him that great damage early on for the laning phase, and even late game it still does contribute a good amount. It can stack up, but it obviously comes a lot down to his Berserker's blood, and the way they changed it, instead of bonus damage, he gets magic resistance now. Clearly, late game, you're not going to be able to get nuked down after you ulti, because obviously the main way the team fight goes is he initiates with his life break, gets himself down pretty hurt, down to 60-70% of his health, and at that point, he's really hurt, and he didn't have that magic resist before, so he could just get nuked or stunned or something, and he would just die. But now he goes in there, gets himself really hurt, but now has a ton of magic resistance, and the only way you gotta finish him off is with some physical. And at that point, he's attacking like a madman. And, if you don't kill him quickly, he's going to absolutely destroy your team. So I think the potential is more in him, at least in that middle game. Late game, I'm not 100% sure which one I favor more. I think Slark obviously has a ton of potential later on when he gets the attack speed up to steal the stats to build up his agility for the fight, but both obviously were underrated, and now I think are going to be showing their prowess in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see some more Huskar. I sort of had the idea in my head of how he might get built and how he might get played, and I wasn't too excited about it, but as we'll see when we finally get to the games with Huskar in them. There's some really interesting takes on him, and the way he gets built sort of changed the way I thought about him a little bit. But I think both of these heroes, they sort of have this thing in common where they both need a little bit of room to get off the ground. I feel like they're not super item dependent heroes, but I feel like they need one. They need the one thing just to get them started, just to get them rolling, and then obviously if they're able to take fights out of that, they can really. I think both of these are snowball-y type heroes. If they are able to find kills in succession, they're able to get some level advantage, they can really get themselves out of control. So it's neat getting to see these two heroes that sort of have this similarity in their basic functionality or their in theme come into the game at the same time. Mm-hmm. But you know what? First game, 4 of these are from Starladder 8. The 5th is Tong Fu versus DK from the G League Finals.
Semifinals, game 1.
Semifinals. Well, I was close. But yeah, let's first look at this Alliance versus Sigma. I'm just going to run through the picks first real quick. Alliance, they wound up taking Bristle as their first pick, Crystal Maiden, Slark, Shadow Demon, Dragonite versus Sigma's Mirana, Bane, Visage, Doom, and Shadow Fiend. And I mean, what were your initial thoughts about this game? How did you like the way the Alliance used Slark?
Alliance used Slark very well. Loda playing him as the hard carry, getting him the safe lane farm. And, you know, there's obviously many ways. I think previously, well, not previously, but you know, he's not only playing that hard carry, he's played middle, he's played off lane, which we'll maybe see later, but I really like him in that hard carry farm role, as long as he doesn't just sit and farm. He's not an anti-mage, he's not a faceless void. Clearly, he's great in the early stages with that pounce and with his Shadow Dance, Dark Pact. I don't know why. Oh, Shadow Dance is one of his moves. Okay, I don't feel like an idiot. It's actually called that, but Dark Pact is what I was actually referring to. But the way he played, you know, obviously he likes to max out the pounce. That's just a common thing, and I think it just makes the most sense when it comes to the hero. I mean, the cooldown gets so much lower, 8 seconds. The damage up to 280 is a great nuke, and then that leash. I mean, that doesn't change per level, but being able to move around, mobility is obviously his greatest strength. If he can stay and lock onto someone, he's going to destroy them. So that made a lot of sense. And then leaving the Essence Shift alone, though, early, getting only the 1 point to max out the Dark Pact, too. I mean, it just makes sense. It's like I said, making him bursty, able to finish off heroes, get up the gold, and kind of snowball into the mid-game.
Yeah, I mean, I like the pounce leveling. I think it's really strong. The other thing that I think is really nice about Alliance's lineup is they're just all fighters, man. Crystal Maiden and Shadow Demon. Like, Shadow Demon's this hero that I feel like you don't get to see a whole lot of late. If you do, I mean, not even a whole lot in the Western scene. I've seen him a lot more in maybe the last week than I had previously, but he's sort of like fell out of being popular for no particular reason. But, you know, some of these games really showing you why he's still a really strong threat. I mean, both of these heroes, Crystal Maiden and the Shadow Demon, really able to do a lot of work in the game and open up a lot of opportunities.
Shadow Demon? I think actually the commentators said a lot about it. But Sigma apparently very predictable in their draft, and apparently fucking mad, whatever you want to call him. The guy with the 7 and ucking. He apparently loves his Bane. He likes to go Bane all the time if he can. And they go the Bane Mirana, which obviously is a great combination normally in most circumstances because you get sleep, set up into a nice long arrow, kill the hero, very easy. Not the case with Shadow Demon, and this is why they picked him. It's so strong against their team. Not only against the Bane ultimate, or sleep, or long arrows, Doom ultimates. I mean, there's so many spells that the disruption defensively is masterful against. And, you know, it just really came together throughout the game. I swear, I saw at least 2, probably more happen, where Bane started ulting someone, and right away, within half a second, he got disrupted, and no longer was an issue. I mean, it really was strong play, and it was really well played by the Alliance team, but still, it was just a great pick. And like you said, Shadow Demon, you know, originally when he came out, we're all like, oh, yay, no more anti-mage, we're going to counter him. Now it's just like, he's become more niche, and like, I mean, he's always been good all around, but he's really showing his strength against a lineup like this.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was really an interesting sort of mini matchup within these lineups was, you know, the Shadow Demon and Slark, and then Mirana Bane. You know, I like those heroes together on either side because obviously Mirana Bane, you can line up the arrows, you can do a lot of burst damage, you can get easy kills. Cool. Slark, well, if you have Soul Catcher with that, you can help this hero that really needs some time to ramp up to have some extra damage come out to help secure some early kills. You're placing somebody quite well in a particular area where you know exactly where you're going to have to pounce to. You get to line that up really well. And yeah, I mean, like you said, the defensive disruptions were just swell, and they did a lot of work. And, you know, I think a big part of why they had success in this game. The other thing that I noticed, and just sort of outside of the Mirana Bane combination for Sigma, was just that they wound up putting the Shadow Fiend together with that, and just the amount of burst damage they were able to put out. I mean, that really was
and
in this game where
Visage.
yeah, that's true as well. Visage, the amount of just when they were able to throw a lot of that damage on the Slark, he just disappeared. He couldn't like soak up the massive amount of magic damage that they were trying to put out in some situations. And you know, I just thought that was really I think in this game where you sort of see like, oh well, maybe that's how we can deal with Slark if he's, you know, gets off this good start. That was sort of where you got to see Sigma have some signs of life.
Right. Yeah, they definitely did. Yeah, there was a couple of team fights, I remember, in the jungle or in different places. By the way, I don't even know why I say anymore, but there's spoiler alerts. We're going to be discussing the outcomes of all 5 of these games. So if you want to watch Star Ladder Group stages, you may want to watch them before you finish out this episode. But yeah, and that's, like you said, there was some strengths coming out in those team fights. Those shadow raises, just so much damage. You connect 2 or 3 of them in a row on someone, it's going to be up to 800 damage, roughly. I mean, it's just so much coming out. And plus the heavy auto attacks. You know, Doom, and you know what? I liked Doom in a way, and then I didn't like him. I feel like it's a strong pick against Slark, period. Clearly, if you can get that ultimate off before he gets going, he's not going to be able to ultimate, he's not going to be able to leap away, he's not going to be able to do anything, and it's going to keep him out of the fight, more or less. But that didn't really get to happen that much in this fight. You know, they got a lot of great chances to open up, but really he ended up dooming other heroes like the Dragon Knight, like Bristleback. And while dooming those heroes can be useful sometimes, obviously Slark is your go-to doom hero for the fact of how much he can do and how much mobility he gets, and of course, like I said, the Shadow Dance to be able to survive longer and get out of harm's way. So Doom didn't really get to do what I think his chosen path was that game, unfortunately for them. But there's a lot of things, and we're not going to be brief on these games. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to take that back for you, because there's a lot of just smaller things I wanted to ask you about. First of all, the off-lane Bristle, solo Bristle by himself. What are your thoughts on that?
Did really well, putting a lot of points into the Bristleback. You know, I know. See, we've actually encountered this. I remember some games in particular playing a support against an off-lane Bristle. And, you know, I might be playing Crystal Maiden or whatever, and we were able to just take him down despite the fact that, you know, he is this tanky hero who can show his back to you, and you can kind of limp away on that. I think the ones that we were playing against would typically try to put, like, an early point in the goo where they really couldn't afford it. But I definitely wanted to talk about the Bristle, especially because, you know, last week we were talking about Ali, who was talking about, yeah, I like to get mech on my Bristle, and here you go, you see that. And, too, you got to see the Doom and the Bristle sort of start with the same kind of items. They both got cloaks, they both got mechs, but like you were saying, you know, the Doom ultimate wasn't super effective in these games, despite the fact that Doom is up against 2 heroes that he's a really good counter to. Bristleback, because you can't Bristleback when you're doomed. Right. You can't put out those extra quills, you don't get the damage
protection, exactly, yeah.
And you're also not spitting out the damage and putting up the slow. You can't do anything really as the Bristleback when you have Doom on you. And then also, like you were saying with the Slark, he's silenced, he's not going to be able to go invisible, he's not going to be able to leap away. You're going to be able to focus him. But it was really like there are almost too many good choices for Doom to go for this game. And, you know, that's like another great strength of the Alliance lineup, where you have these 2 frail supports who are able to have tremendous gank and kill potential behind these 3 just brutal meat shield heroes who don't lack for either really single target or AoE capabilities.
Yeah, that's in fact I made a note very similar to that about how Slark basically gets to do what he wants, because you know, he's got the Bristle and Dragon Knight to just tank up, be these really imposing threats, despite Bristle going more of a tanky, obviously utility build. Like you said, Vanguard, Mech, Rod of Atos, which, God, I know I could like envision your smile on your face when he got that item, because I know you love that item so much. And you know, it's interesting on the hero himself, but none of those are damage items. They're all very defensive, and yet he still was much of a threat that they need to put dooms and other spells. Even Bane ultimates went down on him. I mean, he was just targeted by so many things because they couldn't really go on the Slark whenever they tried to. And here's another thing about the Slark, and this is where it all once again ties in. Loda decided to go Wand, Drums, Treads, and then he went Lincolns and Black King Bar. So none of those are damage items. His 6th slot the Basher. That's where he got his damage finally, and he didn't need it. Obviously, Essence Shift, this is where you get a lot of damage from. You're sitting on people, you're stealing, getting agility from stealing stats from people, and you build up your damage that way. And the Lincolns and BKB are almost essential, it seems like, especially in this game, because there's so much magic damage, like you were saying, so much other damage going around, that if he can just survive those 15-20 seconds in that team fight, he's going to have done his job with the help of his teammates.
Yeah, and that's I think a really important point. I think both for Huskar and for Slark, and maybe this is a little bit teaser into later, but we'll see Huskar building a mech. And I think when you look at sort of pub Huskars, it's about getting the steamroll items, like getting the armlet up so that you have the turn on, I'm stronger than everybody else. Hopefully I can get some kills to build up some gold to keep my snowball rolling. But really, when you think about it, if I'm just alive for a while, my passive, my Burning Spear, these are going to be doing the damage for me. And that's what I really sort of liked about seeing Loda build Slark this way, is because when I first saw Slark, I'm like, oh man, Essence Shift is really cool. That was like what I thought was his neatest ability. And when you see these really defensive-minded builds, it really plays up to this Essence Shift. And the new ultimate does as well. There's the one thing in the game that can reveal you, Faceless Void Ult.
Yes.
Outside of that, you're going to get the regeneration, you're going to get the 4 seconds of running around and doing whatever you want, and building up Essence Shift. So, you go the BKB, so you don't take the magic damage, so you can't be held down, except for Bane Ult. But look, if you have Lincolns, then maybe you can dodge that as well. And when you see all those things coming together, you just get this hero that's like, you're not going to stop me. And by the time you can even try, I'll have built up enough agility and armor that I can just rip through you.
Yeah, and Zyori, one of the casters for Beyond the Summit, who's done a lot of this Star Ladder, brought up the question to, I believe it was Merlini, but it was why then if Faceless is like a true counter with his ultimate, why is he not getting picked up? And Merlini just said basically, well, he takes too long to get going. He's not an early game hero. He gets pressured out of the lane. If you put up a strong tri-lane against him, he's not going to get his farm, and he's going to be held back. And, he's one of those heroes that desperately needs items, like an anti-mage. So, it just takes too long. The Slark will probably take over at that point, because he's obviously got so much potential early game with his Pounce and his Dark Pact. And, sure, it would be helpful to be able to reveal Slark, but it's not enough of a counter that you're going to change the whole dynamic of your lineup just to do it. Yeah.
And, the item that, of course, I think everybody's going to overlook, or, maybe I'm just like, I'm trying to think of a great phrase for it, but just it's one of those items that people tend to just forget about, is the drums, which I feel like were so key to just giving him a great platform to start from.
People couldn't forget about drums, because you say them in pretty much every build you ever do.
I promise. One day I'll just make like a rant video where I'll get it all out,
yes.
Or I'll like make a thesis on drums, and it'll be magical. But until then, I gotta point it out, because especially when you look at the next game we were going to talk about, Navi versus Rox'Kis, you have a Slark who's in the off lane who really isn't able to get off the ground. He has a really hard time early on. Does try to roll out of the lane, go towards middle, and try to pick up some farm. And, you can't really blame this game on Slark, because it was really Lacoste who was subbing in for Havost,
yes,
as well as Io, that are just completely overwhelmed and devastated by Razor, played by Scandal, which does a great job.
Razor was such a strong pick. It was crazy. I believe Rox'Kis was first pick. They went with the Elder Titan, if I'm correct on that motion, and then that left into Visage and Outworld Devourer being picked by Na'Vi. So naturally they pick Razor, and that obviously is the counter to OD mid as far as we know. It's one of the strongest. If he tries to banish, he'll get majorly purged or slowed up from the Razor's passive, and then he'll be able to tether up and steal tons of damage and win the lane. So they decide, like you said, they go duo against him mid, and they did get a nice early kill. They did catch him off guard at one point, but that was about it. The rest of the game went heavily in Razor's favor. He was able to steal tons of damage from Tiny. Io not really able to CC unless the heroes get in a position to, and it's not even a stun anymore, it's just a mobility. So he can still be auto-attacking using his spells. I mean, Razor's still going to be dishing out a ton of damage during that duration. So really, Razor just got way off the handle in this game and just kind of took over. And like you said, it wasn't their Navi's complete lineup because the Force was missing, but even still, Rox'Kis just played this game beautifully. And not to mention their other picks. I guess we're just getting into it, so might as well just say it. But Rox'Kis ended up going Elder Titan, the Razor. Then they went Dazzle Slardar, and then the Lich. So the Elder Titan Lich was in their offlane, keeping the equilibrium pretty good with the denies. And then the Slardar Dazzle, well, that's just plain rude.
Yeah, and I really liked it. I mean, this is a lot of these games. I thought what was really interesting was when you look beyond the Huskar and the Slark, there were just some really crazy things going on, and this is an example of one of those, you know, the Dazzle Slardar. And it was a really nice combination up against the Slark because you even got to see some early kills where they were just able to put the slow on him, catch up to him, lay down the crush, and they are able to at least get one kill on him in that bottom lane, you know, against a really escapable hero. And, you know, that's certainly not like a... we don't see the Slardar Dazzle combination every game, but it worked really well here. And the other thing I thought was really interesting about this game is I think the Navi draft makes a good amount of sense. Or I'm sorry, the Rox'Kis draft makes a lot of sense against the Slark because they have an AoE stun, so they have the ability to try to catch Slark while he's shadow dancing. They have the AoE armor reduction through Dazzle's ultimate. They have a lot of these tools to really try to affect Slark while he's invisible, which, you know, I was actually talking with Magic Man earlier, and we were talking about the Slark, and he's like, yeah, you know, I know you guys have said that you think it's a buff, but there's still the issue of you can catch him with the AoE spells. And I was like, well, you know, but there aren't a whole lot of them that are, like, super prevalent. But, you know, really, like, looking through it this week and looking through all these games, like, man, there really are a lot that are still pretty prevalent. But there are so many that we don't even get to see that often, like the Slithering Crush from Slardar, that, you know, really, if you give people a good reason to pick these heroes, they're perfectly useful and viable.
There's tons. I mean, when you think about it, there's, like, Nyx Impale, there's Lena with her 2 spells, there's Leshrac with his Split Earth. I mean, there is actually a lot, and like you said, that they're just not necessarily coming around right now. But there are, and like it's so obvious where he is because of the Black Cloud that it doesn't necessarily too hard. Now, granted, he does get a ton of movement speed with that ultimate, so he's going to be running around like a little jackrabbit. But if you can catch him, well, you're going to get him, and it's only a few seconds. So you just got to make him sit around there long enough that you can keep up. And Slardar is obviously one that's really good at keeping up because of the sprint. So he'll be right on top of him, ready to kill him when he comes out of that. But yeah, there's just Navi. This lineup was just too greedy. That's just the way I saw right away when I saw it. It was just too much they wanted to get into late game with. You know, I felt like they needed just a bit more control, a bit more focus. I didn't like the Slark offlane. I think that was where it went wrong. I think they wanted Slark because they got him 3rd in the draft. But then when they started seeing how the draft was going, they were like, well, I guess we can stick him in the offlane because Funny likes to play him there. But 2 vs 1, it just was not going to work out for him. It was the Dazzle and Slardar, which, I mean, early, yeah, he was doing an okay job with some damage here and there, but he couldn't get really the farm he needed. And the levels, maybe he could get some, but it just wasn't going to be enough. That I really loved it so much more when Loda was getting in the safe lane, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, the other thing that I thought was like really weird about this game, but cool, was that just the lane breakups, because you have Navi going a 2-2-1 strat, having the Slark in the bottom off lane, and then you had Rox'Kis doing a 2-1-2, and you know, really, I think, like you're saying, it was a greedy lineup. You're running this tri-core, sort of similar to how Alliance had 3 core heroes, but they just weren't able to get anything out of any of them. I mean, you have the Visage sitting around Outworld soaking up some of that experience. You have Tiny, who's losing to a solo Razor pretty much, and then Slark was just not able to really get up into the creep wave and get the last hits. And so, yeah, all these heroes, it's like, yeah, let's say if one of them had succeeded, obviously that would have been great, but I mean, it almost feels like you needed 2 of them to have a good time in order to get the game going.
DoD, Dendi did well. He got a decent farm. He got a 4-staff actually pretty early in the game. But by that point, Razor was getting runes, ganking with haste runes and different things, and just he snowballed way too much. And OD could just not keep up. There was no way. So OD was kind of a saving grace, but yeah, it was not nearly the amount that Razor and everything else. Like, if you do a 2v1 mid, you have to win mid. That's just plain and simple. If you do not, then you're going to be way behind on both levels and gold, and it's just clearly going to hurt the other lanes as you would expect. So, yeah, it did not work out for them. And you were starting to mention with the minus armor, this team comp was insane minus armor from Rox'Kis. And it only didn't hit me until the end. But you throw it all together, you have the Elder Titan with his reductions, you have the Slark with amplified damage, Dazzle with his ultimate, and Razor ultimate. I mean, it was just like, holy crap, like, these enemy heroes have no armor or resistance. They're just going to melt, and that's exactly what they did. They melted, and it was really powerful. It was a quick game, too, may I add. I mean, Na'Vi knew they were done for within, I believe it was 23 minutes or something. It was a pretty quick game, but, it was really interesting to see them pull this out.
Yeah, for sure. And, going back to just, like, what Slark... how, like, Slark just wasn't able to get anything going here. I mean, if you did, like, an off-lane Slark and you had maybe, like, someone in your jungle, then you were able to get an early tower or something, just so that, if he wasn't succeeding in his lane, that he was still getting something out of the map from maybe the other side, cool. But, it could have just been because of how the draft worked out the way that you mentioned, and Na'Vi were just sort of forced into funky lanes, that, Slark just really gets the short end of the stick. And, I think when you go into Tong Fu versus DK, you sort of wind up seeing a Slark that wasn't able to get a tremendous start either, in part just because Tong Fu, because DK are just able to put up so much early pressure. They're able to take 5 towers, DK's 0 throughout the game. And the Doom-Nyx combination was just so devastating to Slark. Being able to sneak up on Slark, land the Impale, and get Doom off on top of that, how can you expect this hero to get off the ground? And I think that just sort of goes back to this, what we've been talking about the whole time, just he needs that little bit of help getting off the ground, because if you can shut him down early, there's not a whole lot of potential for him to come back later on.
Yeah, he's not going to have great ways to farm and catch up. He really needs to get off to a decent start. Not as much as like a Faceless per se, but still he needs to get off to a good start. And yeah, that was a good transition. They went into it, and Tong Fu ended up going the Slark, the Crystal Maiden, the Chen, the Dragon Knight, and the Darkseer. DK going that Timbersaw for Ice, of course. Rubik, Nyx, Pugna, and the Doom. Mushi Doom mid. So, we compare this back to the first game where there was a Doom in the safe lane. And, we're talking about how Doom was not successful. He didn't get to get off on the targets he wanted to. He wasn't able to really... I mean, he got some decent farm, but it wasn't really a threat the whole game. This Mushi Doom was the opposite, and it, like you said, had a ton to do, pretty much essentially everything to do with this Nyx Assassin. Coming in there Vendetta in the middle, and then off the bat it was really a lot on Dragon Knight. He was caught out of position, and by the time he tried to react, he was already doomed in at half health, and he'd get back to his tier 2, but he was dead from the damage over time, and it was too late. So really some strong early presence from his supports, and what's funny about that is Tong Fu's the one that bought 3 smokes off the start. They had 3 smokes from the beginning of the game and didn't use any of them for the first 5 minutes. And it was like, well, why did you even do that if you weren't planning on using them? That's essentially 300 gold deposited for what? I mean, maybe there could have been salves, maybe there could have been other items that would have helped the laning phase a lot better. And the announcers kept going really back to this one ward that Ice placed. And it was in between. It's so hard to describe on a podcast because it'd be so much easier just to show on a map. But it was essentially, imagine the dire jungle. Huh?
Ooh,
okay.
Do
you have visions of lollipops and geese and?
Well, no, because it's the dire jungle, right?
Oh,
so
right.
It's actually pretty grim. But
okay, yeah. There's a lot of darkness and evil, but you imagine going from the top rune, you go up to the right up that ramp. And then there's a little ramp to your north.
Oh god, there's ramps everywhere.
There's ramps. So you go up one and then you go up the other. And there he is. He placed it right there. And the reason for that placement was obviously to see if they were going to roam. I mean, when you have a Chen with some early creeps, he's looking to roam and get ganks. And so by placing it there, it didn't block any creeps, bonds, but it gave him the vision that they essentially knew where Chen was at most times. And that really did make such a difference for his safety. Because obviously Timber off lane, not bad at surviving. Actually, he did a good job with the creep blocking to get the equilibrium pretty close to his tower. But he really wasn't held back at all. And he was able to contribute in the mid game substantially because of that.
I thought it was neat just looking at these drafts. Like, I mean, it's a long time ago now, but like getting Dragon Knight and Darkseer on the same team was like the thing to do. It was just like that tortoise shell that you could not break. Like, they're just these super durable heroes. They could sort of have their backs up against the wall and just be able to pump out damage and control the team fights enough.
And it was so much better when Darkseer Haganims worked the way it used to, where you had two of your own Dragon Knights, but, not quite the same effect anymore.
Whatever. And then you also had, Chen and CM together, who really effective, like you were saying, smoke users. Both of these heroes can gank very effectively with that item. And then you look at DK side of the board, where it's really just a lot of the new age flair. Something sort of starting to go out of, out of the meta. The Rubik, the Nyx, not so important anymore. Even Timber sort of falling a little bit more to the wayside. But Pugna and Doom really, prevalent now. And DK really just put together this high damage lineup. And, there just really wasn't enough counter push coming out of Tong Fu to really sort of stand up to it. I mean, Pugna just dropping bombs. The amount of clear that DK had was just unreal. And like I said, 5-0.
But the funny thing to me was, you look at this DK lineup, and Pugna, clearly a good pusher. The other four, though? No, not really. Doom, Nyx, Rubik, Timbersaw, yeah, they got wave clear, sure, they do. But tower pressure, I mean, they're not heavy auto attackers, they're not anything like that, so I guess the durability from Doom is where you could say he's a good pusher in that sense, especially obviously the mech build that comes out from there. But I don't think of him I don't think of this lineup when I think of push. I think Pugna for sure, but it's not heavy investment, and maybe that's why it works so well, is because they have such great killing potential that they can push right afterwards and get a lot for a little. And I mean, that regard, that makes a lot of sense to me. When you see other teams, when you think of push, like, Lashrak, Lone Druid, Pugna, they're going crazy and going all these insane push heroes. But that doesn't necessarily work, because if you get a Kodo, you get a couple anti-push, their strategy is down the hole. Whereas this, if they win their lanes and they get some towers to really snowball into the mid-game, that's where it gets out of hand like this.
Yeah, I mean, the other nice thing about the lineup from Tong Fu is when they get... Jeez, I don't know why I keep switching these teams so much for this one game. But DK was, when they get pressed up against the tower, they really are able to pick up the kills there. Between just the range from telekinesis, the Nyx stun, Timber being able to get into areas quickly and do a bunch of damage, they can really they don't have to slow siege. They really could just push up, start dropping Nether Blast, and if anybody tried to defend and got out of position, it's a really good lineup for capitalizing on that.
They also had 4 Arcane Boots on DK.
Well,
So that was nice to keep the push alive. Vanguard on Doom early, so we went the mech. I mean, actually, he didn't even have to go mech, excuse me. He didn't go mech because Pugna did. So he was able to just go Vanguard, and that's really what I think helped the pushes as well, because he was able to soak up so much damage early on that he was just really useful to tank it up, using his fire and whatnot to gain health and movement speed, and then doom up the heroes. He got a lot of, and this is where it came to be the opposite. He got really great dooms. He got a couple on the Slark, he got a couple on the Dragon Knight. I mean, he really got the valuable targets before they were able to do any kind of damage, and that was where it really snowballed out of control. So yeah, DK really taking this game strongly, and it was so this is 1 and 2 for Slark at this point for the games we've watched, but yet, it didn't mean that Slark necessarily was a horrible pick. It just meant that the lineup he was used in and the way it worked out, obviously, was not in their favor.
Yeah, for sure. And, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it really is just about getting out of the gate, being able to get yourself a start and not being held down, being able to get that decent start that really helps him a lot. But, I was thinking about it earlier this week, Jay, and it's been a really long time since I've actually called a part of our show, a What the Nuts.
Oh my
segment.
gosh. Is it happening?
Maybe. I didn't originally plan to call it What the Nuts, but for any of you new listeners, What the Nuts, whenever anything super crazy out of left field would happen, I would bring it to the attention of all you fantastic viewers. The next game that we're going to talk about not only has a Huskar, it has a Rod of Atos Alchemist, it has a Jungle Tiny, it has a dual lane Lone Druid. This is just the most weird thing I think I've seen in a really long time out of competitive Dota. And so, you know what? Let's do it. What the Nuts? OSG versus Alliance. A really interesting game for a lot of reasons in reference to our conversation. One, because OSG, this is a squad that I really haven't gotten to watch a whole lot of.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually picking Huskar in many of the games of the three that he's been in. So, two of the three. But they actually go into this game. They ban Slark, they ban Bristleback. First two. Did not want to play with either of those heroes. And they will wind up going into this game picking Pugna, Alchemist, Weaver, Abaddon, and Huskar. Alliance, first picking Crystal Maiden. They're going to grab Darkseer, Lone Druid, Tiny, and Axe. What are your thoughts on this ridiculousness?
Lots of thoughts. First of all, for those who don't know, because I certainly did it, OSG stands for Oslicky Gaming, and they're a Russian/Ukrainian team. So now you've gained a little pearl of wisdom there if you didn't know who they were. Because like I said, I certainly didn't. But the Axe last pick threw me way off. I'll put it bluntly, threw me way off. I was looking at their lineup and I'm like, oh, yes, I'm liking keep going. Lone Druid on your Admiral, Bulldog, Darkseer, Crystal Main, this Tiniest is beautiful. You guys are gonna have some great teams here. And then Axe comes in here. And I'm looking over at OSG, I'm like, okay, what do they have that they want Axe against? They've got Alchemist, I guess, support, Weaver, maybe you get a Tong on him. I don't know. But when I think of Axe, I think of I want to push, and I want to get amazing initiation. The push part, obviously, he goes behind, pulls the creep waves, clears them out, and the tower is going to get annihilated by your team. Hopefully. That's the way I think of Axe. I'm not saying that's the way it should be played. That's just how I think of him. In a professional scene. In pub scene, I think of Jungle, because I don't know how the hell else to play him. But he was ran middle, and he was ran middle against a Huskar. That matchup was not in his favor at all. It was brutal, to put it bluntly. It was really hard. Axe was trying to max out his damage over time. Battle Fervor?
What?
What is it called?
Yes?
Battle
Hunger.
Battle Hunger. I don't know who has the fervor for it. But no, Battle Hunger, correct. And he was maxing that out, and that seems like your typical laning phase Axe build, although it was nerfed recently. But still, it's the way it came out. You get that high damage over time, one of the biggest nukes in the game over time, as long as nukes over time. That doesn't make any sense at all. But yeah, as long as you obviously can get the duration out of it. But against Huskar, whose attack speed becomes very quick, and is a ranged hero on top of that, and the Burning Spears to really keep the damage rolling on Axe, he could not stay in the lane. He had so many issues that it just really went way in the favor of the Huskar, and it obviously led to him getting a really strong performance, getting that really quick mech, like you were kind of discussing earlier.
Yeah, I get Axe pre-679. Because, before the Culling Blade threshold gets reduced so dramatically, I get it. Huskar, he jumps in, hurts himself, gets himself low, you kill him. Cool. Weaver, if you're able to catch him in a taunt, and he's not able to time-lapse, you can kill him. Cool, I get that. I even sort of liked, when you were talking about the middle, in theory, I was thinking about, I'm like, oh, Battle Hunger, a hero who's hurting himself dramatically already, you might be able to put so much damage onto him that it's hard for him to use the Burning Spears, or it's hard for him to stay in the lane. Obviously didn't happen. No. And, Alliance were looking to try and use Tiny to toss creeps into the middle lane to
Yep, that was
pull
pretty
the
cool.
creeps. Pretty sweet idea. Really only worked the one time,
Yeah,
and didn't prove that effective.
he was like level 2 when everyone else was level 4 or 5. It was just way behind for them at that point. You know, Tiny is one of those heroes that you really want also to get the levels, because obviously that's how he's going to burst down heroes. He needs the Toss and the Avalanche to be maxed out, and it was not happening anytime soon for him.
I will say that I did enjoy, because this is just also, and going back to the every once in a while that I'll go and watch like a Han game or a LoL game just to see how the other MOBAs are sort of working out.
How dare you?
I can't. I know. I try to cover my eyes, but sometimes it gets through. They're tiny in Han Pebbles. Actually, will get played as sort of a not core role, and will just sort of be there for initiation for an AOE stun, to be able to toss people about. And I thought that was kind of an interesting idea. It doesn't really work out here, but we typically always just see Tiny with IO, and we want him to get Aghanims, and we want him to cleave down tower. So it's kind of neat to see him in sort of this alternate position.
There was a lot of weird things, though. I mean, it just begins there. But the Orb of Venom early on Weaver, I was just... There's the what the nuts coming right out. I still don't know either. There's literally nothing I can think of that justifies that, unless you want to do, like, 12 damage over 4 seconds. Like, I don't know what you're really going after at this point. Yeah, a slow, but 4%. What do you need that for, honestly? It's and I'm not asking you because I know it's rhetorical. There's really nothing you need that for. It's very unessential, and he's paired with an Abaddon, who, I mean, honestly, so why do you need a slow? I mean, Abaddon's going to not... He's not going to be like running up and like autoing with you. He's going to be using his ranged death coil, his different spells. So it seemed pretty unessential. Weaver, obviously, with max move speed, doesn't need a slow. He's going to be able to catch up with whoever he wants. So yeah, that was strange. And also was different, although I liked this one, was the Pugna, instead of getting that ward investment, was going to Crepify. And at first I was like, what in the world are you doing that for? Because obviously ward is so much stronger to level for pushing and team fighting, where you would at least imagine so. Put in the back, it makes him negative mana regen, and then the big bursts of mana drain when they cast their spells. But actually with that decrep, because he went an incredibly quick Dagon, and when you get to decrep and Dagon someone, they die. That's just what happens, and it happened a lot, actually, as it turns out. So it was actually really cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of like the Weaver and the Abaddon together. I mean, that's a great combination. Period.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever. I love it. But yet I would, if you got like an aggressive tri-lane, you're like, man, I just want like a tiny bit more slow. Like,
if I could just get like 4%
between 3 and 5% slow. Like, oh, what we could accomplish. But what?
If only I had 12 more damage over 4 seconds. If only I could have done that, I would have killed him.
He was just getting ready for the Scotty, Jay. That's all.
He was. Well, he never got it, so unfortunately, it never made its way there. But yeah, that item that will still probably boggle us to the rest of our days, and there's no point in researching into that, I think. But some other cool things, using Toss with Axe, like you were kind of going at. That was like the Han thing. Well, Axe was having trouble getting farmed, so instead of getting a Blink Dagger, they just threw him in the fight. He taunted and got some damage out. I mean, it was really nice to see, and they really did their best. I mean, there was some really... I feel like they did the team fights late game as best they could. Like, they got the combinations. Axe went in, spun, Darkseer, vacuum, ultied. It looked all good, but they were so far behind at that point that Huskar's like, okay, my turn. And he just turned around and just killed 3 of them. And it was just too much. And with Abaddon, this is what the other great thing, not only the Weaver, but with Huskar. I mean, if Huskar life breaks in, and then you shield and heal him up, he is going to survive a lot longer, and therefore be able to do a ton of damage with his attack speed. So that's another great combination that was kind of shown on display, if you will, with this lineup. Of course, with the minus armor from Alchemist as well, the acid spray just boosting that damage. But really, it was such a weird lineup, but it came together so well.
Yeah, and I think just going back to like what I learned about Huskar from watching this game, and what I thought was really interesting was seeing that mech on him,
Yeah.
and really going to any other of these mid heroes that get mech. Um, it's a great swing item. It's obviously great if you are going to be fighting with your team, if you're able to apply that heal. Like we were even talking about last week and earlier today with Ollie's build of the bristleback with mech. It's almost synonymous with Vanguard. And if you're able to put it on somebody else, and you could say situationally it's better. And you're this hero that if all you have to do is live a while, and you'll do just fine. So instead of living a while with Armlet and being able to do a bunch of damage yourself, yeah, cool. You can really open up opportunities for other heroes on your team to make big impacts, and mech's even an item that's going to help you push. It's going to help you,
And
Roshan, do a bunch of stuff.
the other reason I liked it so much on Huskar is the fact that he only has one spell that costs mana, and yet normally, at least in the early parts, he doesn't even get it. He usually maxes Burning Spear and Berserker's Blood. Maybe gets 1 point if he chooses, but you're all about bursting and not caring as much about surviving. You're all about dishing out as much as possible. So the mech mana cost is negligible to this hero, whereas compared to like Doom and Bristle and some other heroes, they're actually using their mana throughout the fight, so it kind of is impactful on them. Huskar, no, not really a big deal. And it just like we're saying, combos up so well because you life break in and then mech up right after. Now you're healed up again. You've got armor on top of that, and you're dishing out a ton of damage. It's really actually a great combination. It's perfect, and I would expect it to be built on him pretty much regardless. In fact, I'm almost... Well, I have to play Tusk 20 more times. But if I were to play Huskar anytime soon, I would look to do it, honestly. Now, the question is, he was played middle in both these games. Would you like to play him in a safe lane or no?
I don't know. I'm still kind of on the fence. I mean, we haven't gotten to see him a whole lot. I would really like to see, just even if it was mid, just a bigger... sample of games to sort of get a feel for how he does in the average scenario. I don't know why he wouldn't be able to, just because you're able to be a big source of damage, and if you're able to get control out of other heroes, then maybe there's some potential for you there. But I don't know. I guess if you knew you were going to have a tough mid matchup and you were like, well, we can maybe put him in the safe lane now, let him get a mech or any other kind of mid-game item that or just go for the armlet even if you wanted to. If you wanted to make him that just sort of carry that needs a strong mid-game item to get off the ground, that's I think legit. But I think that's a hero that you have to make your presence known across the map. Kind of like Slark, like you were saying, you can't sit there and farm all day. You have to come out and you have to fight to really make effective use of the hero.
Yeah, exactly. You're not a stand around and let's get items and worry about fighting later. No, Huskar was born for the mid game. He was born for getting in there, getting his hands dirty, and taking it to the other team. When we see him, I know at least in pubs and stuff, Urn and Armlet are very popular early game choices for this hero instead of the mech. It provides that healing / extra damage, if you will, the Urn especially. And you're planning on getting a lot of kills, so the charges shouldn't be a challenge, kind of like a Pudge, where you can be able to soak up some kills and help your team continue on the fighting. But obviously neither of these, he went for well, I guess the mech kind of is your alternate option in this case, instead of the Urn early game. And Armlet was chosen, regardless, just later, so... I think you would agree that Armlet is just another great example of an item for this hero.
Yeah, I mean, just because of its regen, its armor, you got the turn on to be stronger, like you were saying earlier, and just these are heroes that want to have successful mid games to then snowball out of control, and that's obviously an item that's all about that. So I definitely like that choice, but yeah, I mean, like you're saying, if you're you might see like the Urn or something else to try and or just going for the Armlet to get that regen up. Mech is another item that's going to be able to give you that regen, and I really enjoyed seeing that build. But the other things, the one other thing that I really liked, seeing the Rod of Atos on Alchemist mostly because I struggle sometimes when I think about Rotavatos because I really like it in theory. And if you don't know why you should like Rotavatos, it's because it's a super long range.
I say number 2.
Oh, okay.
No, just kidding.
Super long range, slow. That is a fantastic ganking tool. It's great, and it's health, which in support is nice because then you get to survive and cast more spells. Sometimes though, it's hard to think of a hero that what hero doesn't have a slow? What hero is the amount of int you're going to be getting kind of worth it? I mean, Alchemist doesn't really need the intelligence, so you could maybe argue that that's kind of wasted on him. But here's a hero that has the charge stun, that can sometimes get line of sighted, can get fogged, and will wind up stunning himself instead. And the Rotavatos, I think, plays well into his kit for just the long range, for being able to have gank potential, and to just be able to contribute to the fight more than just the stun and the acid spray. Because I know me, when I've built it on, I've even built it on Crystal Maiden, because I go, okay, I free somebody, I drop my nuke, I could ulti, but it's on cooldown, I don't want to use it right now. I just kind of sit there and look pretty till stuff comes off cooldown, which she does a very good job of doing. But why not get an item that will also allow me to throw out an additional slow, or throw out some additional...
And it's a good slow. And it's a long range, which is also another beautiful thing. And, when it's built on Bristleback, the same kind of thing happened. I mean, Bristle, now granted, he has a lot more use out of the mana. I mean, not to say that Alchemist doesn't, because his spells end up being about 280, both the Concoction and Acid Spray together, and that's a good chunk of mana for a hero that's a strength hero. But yeah, he does get some mana regen with the Chemical Rage, a lot of it actually later on. So yeah, I guess, and he also had a medallion in this game. He built before that, so his mana regen was pretty much there already. But I think just the item just made perfect sense for a support Alchemist. I really did enjoy it, like you're saying, giving that added utility on top of everything else, and he actually just did wonderful this game. He was in some great hiding positions, charging up that Concoction. I remember seeing a couple times he caught Lone Druid off guard with these really long stuns, set up some kills with his teammates, and I mean, it just really was... It made me enjoy support Alchemist again, because I remember being on the train of thought of, no, only carry. I want Grievel's Greed, I want farm. I think that's what the hero's for. But after seeing it like this, with the minus armor stacking up with both Medallion and Acid Spray, and getting those big stuns off, he really did contribute a lot, and it was nice to see.
Alchemist is one of those heroes that I've talked about playing support for a long time, and I've sort of been interested in. It's not something I've really committed to, because it's one of those things where it's almost like I don't want to play him because I'd like the practice first playing him, if that makes any sense at all. I bet that would be a lot of fun once I get used to it, but the growing pains might be a little hard to deal with playing him in that role. But I definitely plan on not doing it like a challenge or anything, but just doing a brief stint of Alchemist games to really get a feel for what kind of support items can we use on them that you might not see all the time. I mean, obviously the Medallion's a great one, for, like you said, stacking the minus armor for doing Roshan. But there really are a lot of great support, or even just tanky items that you can just say, well, I'm up in people's faces a lot, causing enough distraction to make it worth it. Items that I'm really curious and messing around with. But then we have the next game, Jay. We have
there's a fifth, isn't there? Jeez.
Oh, there is. There's one more. The cast that never ends. OSG versus Super Strong Dinosaurs. Now, Super Strong Dinosaurs, a bunch of names you should be familiar with, from a bunch of different teams coming together. No sponsor. I don't think there's a company called.
Can we get a moment of silence for them, though? They disbanded.
Oh my gosh.
So sorry to break your heart here, but 12/23, a couple days before, it was kind of one of those little Johnny on his
No, I'm gonna watch you try and save it.
Little Johnny.
Appleseed?
Tim? No, Tim. Who was the guy in Scrooge that had the injured leg?
Timmy. Tiny Tim.
Tiny Tim. Whatever. Either way, continue.
I have no idea how to get back to what I was talking about after that. That is the sidetracks of all sidetracks. But OSG versus Super Strong Dinosaurs. Super Strong Dinosaurs, a bunch of
players that individually I think you know of, and okay, well maybe you're not going to see them playing together in the future. But this game I think is really where you get to see where you have some heroes that you might not, at least I didn't immediately consider as being great counters to Huskar, but you just get to see really nice counters to Huskar. You have super strong Dinosaurs who actually, their first ban, they banned Slark. They wind up first picking Crystal Maiden, then Visage, Bristleback, Viper, and Bat Rider. That guy's still a thing. And OSG, who wind up going Venomancer, Clockwork, Rubik, Huskar, and Weaver. This Huskar is also ran middle. He winds up going against Viper. And wow. Just wow.
There's this is an example of where Huskar gets countered mid, and it was actually, it's, you know, I like seeing both of these dynamics, seeing not just all in the favor of one hero, and that's why I liked hearing that Slark's record was like 20-17, because it means that he's not out of control, out of balance. It means that he's just finding his place, but doing pretty good in the spot he's in. And this was a great example of Huskar mid not having an ideal lane. Viper. Always been a strong middle hero, frankly. I mean, obviously he can do great harass, doesn't get aggro threat if he uses his poison attack on the enemy, but actually going a really interesting build, and it made perfect sense after I laid the numbers out to myself. But he maxed out the corrosive skin against the Huskar, and at first I'm like, what? You know, normally you either go Nether Toxin or the poison spray, or poison attack, because you know, you're looking to get that great harass in, the last hitting, a lot easier. But he had no issues last hitting, because the harass was already there. And the corrosive skin gives you that move and attack speed slow against the enemy, and magic resistance. The magic resistance, which I actually honestly kind of forget about with that skill, but Burning Spears is magic damage. So it actually was helping against that damage that he was trying to apply, on top of slowing the move and attack speed, so making him that much more easy of a target for him to kill. And when Viper gets that ultimate, forget it, he's going to burst this hero down. So it actually even forced Huskar, by level 4, had a point in his heal already, which most Huskars do not have it that early. Most prefer to get their other 2 skills maxed out. So you know, it really was strong. I believe he was at least doubling the CS by the like 8-minute mark or something.
Yeah, he got very far ahead, and you know, a Viper is just, you know, a hero that you think of as, you know, an anti-carry, but man, he just feels like he was built to fight Huskar. You know, here's Huskar wants to do damage to himself so that he does more damage. Well, that's fine, because if you have less health, then I'll do more damage with a Nether Toxin, which the Viper winds up putting a lot of points into in this game early on. You know, the corrosive skin, like you said, if you have the attack speed slow against a hero that's trying to stack up attack speed to really maximize his damage, and then like you said as well, the corrosive skin magic damage resistance, very nice. You know, there's a point where super strong Dinosaurs are trying to push the base in the middle lane, and Huskar tries to walk up to do something and then just like moonwalks himself to death, like just running in circles. He doesn't get anywhere and dies to the corrosive skin, to the Viper strike, to the poison attack. He just really had a tough time in dealing with that hero, and I thought it was really interesting that you know, that was just, again, something that I didn't really expect. And here is another mid hero that sort of plays off of the same kind of mechanic of I kind of just have to stay alive, because just by the virtue of my innate abilities, I just need to survive long enough for you to take enough damage for Nether Toxin to really hurt. Yeah. And so I'm going to go mech. I'm going to go a great team fight item, and I'm going to keep myself alive and sustain. And both these heroes wind up trying to get it in this game. Viper gets his up quicker, and I mean, it's kind of hard to come back from that, really.
Well, when I was looking at SSD, I saw their lineup. You know, they got the Crystal Maiden, Visage, Bristle, Trilane, which, first of all, brutal.
Ooh.
It was brutal. I mean, they matched up against the Venomancer, the Rubik, and the Weaver, and which is a good. It's a good lineup. It's a good lane, but it was just not nearly the pressure that the burst damage that those 3 were putting on them was absurd. And then they also had the Viper and the Bat Rider. So I actually honestly thought SSD just stood for super slow dudes, because, you know, that just makes way too much sense in that regards.
Almost like you hadn't been waiting to use that all week.
It's almost like that, but you'd think. But yeah, it was, and obviously it worked out. And despite being able to get magic sticks against the Bristleback and the other heroes, it just wasn't enough heal to stay alive. And they were back and forth battling. I mean, they'd trade a Visage for Rubik or something. I mean, there was supports lost on both fronts a lot. But at the end of the day, it seemed to come out on top. SSD was getting stronger and stronger and winning more and more of those fights. And Bat Rider, I mean, there's a reason he's back in the scene. He's still doing his job. Despite not being as strong early game as he used to be, he's still locking down heroes, being incredibly mobile, especially with that build with Force Staff, Blink, and Yules, and Boots of Travel, which this guy had all of them, of course. Being a rocket ship and just locking down the heroes you want. And, there's a few times you got Huskar, a few times you got Weaver. I mean, he really was able to accomplish what he needed to. And they were able to finish off the Huskar, which was the issue for Alliance in the other game. They had plenty of damage, and as that, the other reason Viper's so good against him, Nether Toxin. I mean, Huskar gets hurt, Nether Toxin starts kicking in. I mean, you're doing extra bonus damage because he's at lower health. So really, Viper all around just seems like a very good pick against Huskar. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, it was rough. I mean, yeah, like you said, that was the problem in the Alliance versus OSG game, was that you didn't really have an answer. There's even a point where, this is the game where Merlini says, I think that Huskar is potentially more broken than Slark is, or is more unbalanced than Slark. How do you kill Huskar once he gets to this point? Alliance couldn't find an answer for it, but Super Strong Dinosaurs, go ahead and pick the Viper, works out pretty well. And, that was one thing that I was impressed about in this game, going back to what you're saying in the tri-lane versus tri-lane scenario, is that really the game stays really even for the most part. And I had to watch a lot of Dota this week, so you'll have to forgive me if I'm recollecting a different game, but I seem to remember that really this game, it's just the gold graph that just gets more and more ridiculous as the game goes on. The kills sort of stay pretty even, but OSG just aren't able to find as much gold on the map as Super Strong Dinosaurs were, and just sort of wind up losing slowly. It really, for as short of a game it was, it didn't feel so stompy to me, considering how rough that middle matchup was, at least how it started.
Yeah, exactly. It was absolutely a pain for them. So I just want to say for you guys in the pubs who are finding trouble with Huskar, now you know a great answer. Take that little tidbit of knowledge with you. Likewise, if you're playing against an Axe middle, you know that Huskar will work well. I mean, these are all things you need to recall when you're in your pub games, I think.
For that 1% of the games that you lose to stuff like this, now so you're welcome.
But the Bristle also going that Radiance. I mean, I was commenting on you when I was watching the game. I'm like, this is like the stuff of pubs. Like, this is like what I used to do on my Bristleback, except I probably rushed it. But, he got after a Vanguard. At least he got a Vanguard and drums and tread. So, yeah, okay. He had some beefiness going into the Radiance, but I'm not saying it doesn't make sense, because it's kind of like a low Druid Bear getting a Radiance, in the sense that this thing's kind of beefy, it's in everyone's faces, and they don't know what to do with it. So, don't give me that look.
Go on.
It's shiny, it sparkles. I mean, it really, it's something that I'm going to stay focused here. It's something that obviously is strong on a Bristleback, because he's able to tank up so much damage that it's going to be over time great. Plus, he does auto pretty hard as well, so I mean, it just adds to that as well. But it's just something. And then he went for S and Y afterwards, which is just like, hey, let's go nuts fast and be annoying. But I mean, did you like the Radiance on him?
That was almost at the point where I feel like it didn't really matter what he got, the Vanguard start, and like you said, the drums, I really liked those.
Yeah.
I was struggling to remember earlier when we were talking about it before the cast, but WPC, there was a Dota 1 tournament probably a while ago now, but where Bristle, it was actually not too long before Bristle came out, and we sort of had the inkling that Bristle was coming. It was like, oh man, here's Bristle picked in the finals of this Dota 1 tournament, and he went Radiance, if I remember correctly. It's like, oh man, this we might get to see this, and then we didn't, and we were just, okay, well. And now we're sort of getting to see Bristleback after his slight buffs from 6.79, really making a name for himself, and that's sort of, I think, the really neat thing about, we watched these games. Here, you all thought it was about Slark and Huskar. We watch these games where Bristle is still a big part in a lot of these, and you get to see him played in a lot of different ways, a lot of different builds, different laning positions, and then you also get to see how effective he can be at Roshan. Once you get like the 4 stacks that go up, you can just sort of kite Roshan around in a circle, and it's just kind of sad. We see, I believe it was in this game, yeah, it was. Quick skilling of Goo at level 1 actually helps guarantee First Blood. Which is, early Goo is really not something you see very often. It's really more about the Bristleback and the spikes. So, I was just really interested in, not only getting to see Slark and Huskar, not only getting to see the other crazy stuff that happens around it, but we get to see a great case of why Bristle has become so popular. And on top of that, if you look at what Na'Vi has been picking recently in Starladder, they've picked Bristleback, I want to say in like the last 6 games straight, at least from when I had looked at it. They just were on a Bristleback spree, really like looking to pick him up 3rd, I believe, most of the time in their draft. So it's really interesting how this hero has shown himself to be prevalent. I'm really curious to see what his stats are looking like in the near future, but is now just a very important part of the game where he was just on the outskirts, not a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a revolving door, to be honest. I think these heroes are going to come and go, and we'll have to see if people find more of an answer to Bristle, or if he's continuing to get banned out like Elder Titan is. So, because him and Slark have been finding their way to the first round of bans in a lot of games. So, we'll just have to see if there's an answer, or if they just fall out of favor. But either way, it's been a fun episode. Got a lot accomplished, I think.
Yeah, got to talk about a lot of fun stuff. And, just before we wrap up, I'd like to say that I slacked a little bit this week and getting the show notes put into the YouTube. If you guys need a reason to drop by there, I do put show notes in so that you can sort of jump around the episode and have some kind of vague idea, because I do like to have fun with naming the show notes. Have a vague idea of what we're talking about there. I just wanted to point it out because I added the show note for the fair Wheel of Misfortune that helped pick Tusk for Jay not 2 episodes ago, and I just, that was my favorite project that didn't take more than, 4 to 12 hours totally.
Roughly
There were blueprints, there were sketches, there was a model of it that was actually almost the same size. I don't know why it's a model and not just the thing. So please feel free to go and check that out. Of course, drop your comments in the videos. We do look for those for stuff to talk about. And, what are your guys' thoughts on Huskar, on Slark? Are you looking forward to seeing either of these? Do you hate seeing Slark again? Drop by, let us know. I've been tweeting on the Twitter, believe it or not. There's just so many tweets, left, right, and center. Of course, Jay also has the Twitter. We have Twitter for DoD On Demand. We have the Facebook.com/DoD On Demand. We have our stuff up on the Stitcher, on the Twitch, YouTube. Come by, check it all out. We appreciate it, guys. But until next week, have fun out there playing all of the Dota. We'll see you next week.